Okay, so let's begin the equation. Now when we do our decreases, we are going to decrease every other row. So we're going to do a total of 12 rows, and we're going to decrease on every odd row. Every even row, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, we're just going to do flat knitting all the way across. So I created this equation to give you a custom way to plug in your own variables to figure out the amount of stitches that you need to decrease based on your particular measurements. Now, I'm no mathematician, so I do apologize if there are any mistakes, but I did test it on my own dimensions, and I plugged in a couple of other random dimensions as well to see if it'll work, and it seemed to work fine for me. But once again, if yours does have any mistakes in it, then I do apologize, and at that point you might just have to improvise. But try the equation out, and I hope it worked, because it should work. It worked for me. So it took me a while to create this equation, but it looks like it does the job. So what I'm going to do is go through each step with you so that you understand what each thing we're looking for, what each variable, and then I'm going to show you how we're all going to plug it in to find out the required stitches that we need to decrease for each of our odd rows. So if you see my screen right here, we're going to go through all these numbers, and this side on this side here is just a simpler version of this so that we can see what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to find out the variables. So Q, A, B, C, these are all the variables that we're going to find. So the first three steps we already did. That's our casting on, it's our figuring out our width. So let's start at the beginning. So we had to find the width of our foot by wrapping around the string and putting that against the ruler. So we did that already. So the measurement that I wanted was 8 inches, so that was mine. The second one, then we casted on the amount of stitches to make that number, right? So at the beginning I measured 8 inches, so I wanted to cast on the amount of stitches that will make 8 inches. So for me that was 60. So 60 stitches is going to be our Q, so we want to write that down. So Q equals 60 stitches. So that's how many stitches I started with, that's how much we casted on. So the next part. So after that, we measured the heel. We started at the heel and we continued working up with our garter stitch until we reached the top of our pinky toe. So for me, that was 8 inches. So I wanted mine to be the top of my pinky toe from the heel was 8 inches that I wanted the slipper to be. So that's the number you want to put. Okay. So now we're going to look at the next variable, A. So this is where it really begins. So for the next part, we're going to figure out how many stitches my 4 big toes are wide, so in width. So you're going to measure your 4 big toes. So your big toe, the second one, the third, and the fourth. Ignore the pinky toe. So just the first 4 big toes, measure that in width, and that'll give us a number. So that number, we're going to be variable A. So when I measured the toe that I'm doing the slipper for, that gave me 3 inches, the 4 big toes. So that equals A, so write that down. So A equals 3 inches. The next one, 5. So now we want to find out how many stitches are in 1 inch. So I'm going to take my piece and I'm going to put a ruler against it and count how many stitches makes an inch. So for me, based on how I knit, it was 8 stitches makes an inch. Write that down. So that's going to be variable B. So 8 stitches per inch. The next variable, we're going to determine how many stitches are in variable A, inches. So variable A was 3. Okay, so I'm going to determine how many stitches are in 3 inches. So to do that, you do B times A. So variable B times variable A. So in case it was me, 8 stitches times 3 stitches equals 24 stitches in 3 inches. For me. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to do 24 stitches makes 3 inches. Yours could be completely different numbers. Yours could be 20 inches, 20 stitches per 5 inches. It could be 10 stitches per 2 inches. Whatever that number is, that's what you want to write down for C. So C would be equals the amount of stitches that I want at the end of 12 rows. So that's what we just figured out. So at the end of 12 rows, I want a total of 24 stitches. So remember that at the end of 12 rows, I want 24 stitches, and every other row, we are doing a decrease. So therefore, out of the 12 rows, 6 of those rows we are doing decreases. Okay? So the next variable, variable D. So variable D is if I have 24 stitches at the end, the total that I want at the end of my 12 rows, how much do I need to remove from the current stitches that I have to get the 24 number? In this case, so the equation is Q minus C. So Q at the very beginning, my Q was 60, so I'm going to put 60 minus C, right? C is the number that we want at the very end. 60 minus 24 for me is 36. So 36 stitches is the amount of stitches I need to take away. Okay, so that equals D. So I'm going to write that down. So that's 36 stitches I need to remove to get 24 that I want at the end of my 12 rows. Next variable, number 9. I'm going to do that'll give us E. So E is the number of stitches I need to decrease per row. So if I have to take away 36 total stitches to get the 24 that I want, how many stitches in each row do I need to take away? So it's D divided by 6. 6 rows, right? So because it's 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, that's the 6 rows that I'm decreasing. So I'm going to take D divided by 6. 6 is a fixed amount. Equals E. Write that number down. So in this case, 36 stitches I have to decrease divided by 6 rows gives me 6 stitches per row I need to decrease. So write that down. 6 stitches I need to decrease per row. Now you always run around to the nearest even number to make this simple. So if you have, for example, 5.2 is E, so 5.2 becomes 4. If you have 5.5, round it up. 5.5 becomes 6. Okay, so just make it to the nearest even number. Next, we have to find Z. To find Z, we will split E into 2. So 2 is a fixed variable. That's why we want an even number. So you're going to take the E variable. In this case, mine was 6. I'm going to divide that by 2. So 6 divided by 2 is 3. So we're going to use Z later on, so you don't have to worry about what it really means right now. So here we are now. We have figured out all our variables, so now we have to just plug it in into the equation. So you don't have to think at all you have to do is just plug it in and come up with the numbers, and then we will put it all together. So here we have it. I just have it side by side, so it's easy to see where we're getting it from. So here's our equation. So the equation is set up into 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. Part 5 is optional, only if 4 meets the requirement of part 5. So let's begin with number 1. Number 1 is Q minus E. So our Q at the beginning, mine was 60, minus E, mine was 6, equals new G. So new G, we're always going to take that G and apply it to the next row. So I'll go through the rows, I'll show you. So Q 60 minus 6 equals 54 stitches. 54 is our new G. So next one, we're going to take, number 2, we're going to take new G. So 54 minus E. E was 6. 54 minus 6 equals 48. Then we're going to take that number, divide by 2 for number 3. So H, which was 48, divided by 2 equals I. 48 divided by 2 equals 24. We're going to take that number, divided by 2. So I divided by 2, 24 divided by 2 is 12. That gives us P. For option 5, only if P has a decimal. So if P, your answer is 12.2, 12.1, 12.5, 12.6, 13.5, 8.4, anything with a decimal, then you just want to apply it to number 5. Because 12 is not a decimal, 12 ended up being a whole number. We're done. We have the numbers for row 1. So we're just going to plug it into row 1. So our equation for row 1 is this. Knit P or L. So let's do it. So row 1. So we're going to knit P or L. That means if you have P, or if you have L. If you have L, use L. If you don't have L, use P. That's what it means. So because we don't have L, we're going to use P, which is 12. So we're going to knit 12. And then we're going to knit 2 together. Z. So Z, that's the number we found over here before. 6 is 3 for me. And then we're going to knit I or M. Because we don't have M, L and M are for section 5. We don't have that. We're going to use I. So I was 24. And then knit 2 together. Z, which was 3 for me. And then we're going to knit P or L. We don't have L, so we're going to use P, which is 12. And that'll give us the numbers for row 1. That's how much I need to decrease. Yours would be how much you need to decrease. So then let's move on to row 3. So for row 2, we know that we're just going to do a knit across, so we don't have to do any decreases. So let's figure out how many we have to decrease now for row 3. So we're going to use this equation for the remainder of our rows. So row 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. Okay? So let's do this. So we're going to take our new G. So our new G was this one here, the answer from the previous first part. So 54. So you're always going to carry your new G to the next row. So in row 5, I'm going to take this answer, so that my new G. So I'm going to take, so for row 3 now, new G minus E, so E was 6 for me, equals new G, which is 48. So 48 is my new G. So I'm going to take 48 for row 5 now, when I do row 5. But let's continue with this row. So I'm going to take my new G, which is 48, minus E, which for me is 6, equals to be 42. Then I'm going to take H divided by 2. So H is 42. That from the previous row divided by 2 is 21. And then lastly, I have I divided by 2. So take this number divided by 2. So 21 divided by 2, which will give us a decimal number, 10.5. Okay. So because that's 21 divided by 2, 10.5. Because this number here is a decimal, we have to apply step 5. Okay? So step 5 is this. If P has a decimal, you round down. So P is 10.5. It has a decimal, so always round down. So 10.5 becomes 10. Okay, so it could be any decimal. If it's 10.9, it becomes 10. 10.2 becomes 10. 10.3, 10. If it's 8.4, it becomes 8. If it's 8.9, it becomes 8. Right? So that's the first part of 5. And the second part of 5 is you take I. So this is our I, 21. Plus 1. 1 is a fixed number. Equals 22. So now we have all our numbers for our equation. Let's plug it in for row 3. Let's figure that out. So row 3 equals knit P or L. Because we have L, we're going to use L, 10. Knit 2 together, Z, which is 3 for me, knit, and then knit I or M. Because we have M, we're going to use M, 22. Knit 2 together, Z, which is 3, and then knit P or L. L is 10. So that is the amount we're going to decrease for row 3. So we're going to apply the same thing to row 5, 7, 9, and 11. So now I've done rows 5, 7, 9, and 11. I'm going to show you what's going to happen. So row 5, I did the same thing. I used this equation. New G minus E equals new G. So our new G was 48 minus 6 equals 42, which is our new G. Take my 42 minus E, which is 6, equals 36. Takes 36 divided by 2 is 18. 18 divided by 2 is 9. 9 does not have a decimal, so we're done. We do not have to do number 5. So row 5, we're plugging it all in. Knit P, which is 9. Knit 2 together, Z, which was 3 for me. Knit I or M. We don't have M, so we're going to use I. I was 18. Knit 2 together, Z, which was 3. And then knit P or L. In this case, I don't have L, so I have P, which is 9 again. And that gives us a total of 42. Okay. So at the end, you want to you can add up all this together to give us the amount of stitches that you would have on your needle. So I'll show you. Okay, so if you take, so it's the numbers right here, 12 plus 3 plus 24 plus 3 plus 12 equals, and it should equal this number here. It does, 54. So that's the amount of stitches that you're going to have on your needle at the end of row 1. So for row 3, it'll be the same thing. We're going to have 10 plus 3 plus 22 plus 3 plus 10 equals, and it should match our new G, 48. It does. Okay, and it's the same thing here. 9 plus 3 plus 18 plus 3 plus 9 equals 42. So that's the amount of stitches we would have at the end of row 5 once we've completed our decrease. So if we continue through row 7, the same thing. We're going to take our new G. Our new G was 42. Take 42 minus E, which was 6, equals 36. 36 minus E, which was 6, equals 30. 30 divided by 2 is 15. 15 divided by 2 is 7.5. Again, 2 is fixed number. 7.5 is a decimal, so you apply number 5a and 5b to it. So 7.5, you always round down. Whenever it's a decimal, you round down. 7.5 equals 7. And then 5b, you take I, which is 15, plus 1. 1 is fixed amount, always just 1, equals 16. And then we have our numbers. For row 7, you have knit 7, knit 2 together, Z. Z was 3. Knit 16, knit 2 together, 3, knit 7. And then if you add it all up, it equals 36. Now let's do row 9. Row 9, it'll be the same thing. We're going to take our new G. Our new G was 36 from the previous row. 36 minus 6 equals 3. 30 minus 6 equals 24. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then, because 6 is not a decimal, you leave it. We're done. We have all the numbers we need. Apply it to the row. Row 9 equals knit 6, knit 2 together, Z. Z was 3. Knit 12, knit 2 together, Z. Z was 3. Knit 6, if you add it all up, it equals 30. Okay. And then finally, the last one, row 11, apply the same things. We're going to take our new G. Our new G from the previous row is 30. 30 minus E. E was 6 equals 24. 24 minus E. E was 6 equals 18. 18 divided by 2, a fixed number. 2 is a fixed number, equals 9. 9 divided by 2, 2 is a fixed number, equals 45. 4.5. 4.5 is a decimal. Decimals you round down, so we apply 5a. 4.5 equals 4. And 5b, you take I, which was 9, plus 1. 1 is a fixed number, equals 10. And you apply it here. Row 11, knit 4, knit 2 together, times Z. Z was 3. Knit 10, knit 2 together times 3 times Z, which is 3, and then knit 4. If you add it all up, it equals our magic number, which is 24. So 24 is the number that we want. So if we go at the very top here, And we look at C, how many stitches I want at the end. 24 stitches. So because that's how much I want at the end, that's how much I have now, I know that I've done it correctly. And then we just finish off with row 12, which is a knit all the way across. So that's how you determine how many stitches you need to decrease per row for your decreasing rows of 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. So at this point, if you understand it already, go ahead and work your piece, and I will meet you at the end of your decreasing rows at the end of row 12. If you still don't get it, I'm going to go through another example with you using different numbers. Okay, so I just chose these numbers randomly. So we're going to start at the very beginning here when we have to determine everything that we need. So first thing you have to find is Q, how many stitches I started with. So how many stitches did you cast on? For example, let's say we cast on 50 stitches. Write that down. Next, we have to determine A. A is how many inches my 4 big toes are in width. So put them together and measure what that width is, your 4 big toes together, and let's say it's 3 inches. Next, we have to determine how many stitches are in an inch. So take your piece, put a ruler to it, measure it, and count how many stitches makes an inch. Let's say it's 7. So write that down. So that's variable B. Variable C is how many stitches I want in the end. So how many stitches do I want at the end of my 12 rows for my decreasing? So to do that, you take 7, B times A, which is 21. So I know that I want, at the end of my 12 rows, I want 21 stitches. So if I want 21 stitches, I have to now find variable D, which is how many stitches do I have to take away if I have 50 stitches right now. So you do Q, which is 50 minus 21, C, equals 29. So 29 is the amount of stitches I need to take away to get to the desired amount of 21 that I want at the end of 12 rows. Now for E, we have to determine if I want to take away 29 stitches, then how many stitches per row do I need to take away? So if we're decreasing, so out of the 12 rows, if we are only decreasing on every odd row, so 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11, therefore that's 6 rows that we're decreasing on, then that means we have to take D, which was 29, divided by the amount of rows, which was 6, equals 4.8. Now, 4.8 is not an even number. Okay, 4.8 has a decimal. So we have to round up or round down to the nearest even number. So 4.8, the nearest even number is 4. Okay, not whole number. Whole number would be 5. Even number, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 4.8, the nearest even number is 4. E equals 4. We're going to use that number. If it's 5.2, your nearest even number is 6. Right? If it's 5.5, your nearest even number is 6. If it's 9.6, your nearest even number is 10. If it's 8.4, your nearest even number is 8. And if it's, let's say it's just 9. If your number is 9, round it to the nearest even number, which could be 8 or 10. You pick, it doesn't really matter. Okay, just get it to an even number. Then we're going to then we have to find variable Z. Variable Z is E divided by 2. So in this case, it's 4 for me, divided by 2. That's why we wanted an even number. So now we have all our variables. We have to just plug it into the equation. So once we have all our numbers, we're going to plug it into the equation that we have. So we're going to begin with Q minus E. So Q is 50 minus E, which is 4. Right here, 4, E, 4, because we round down, equals 46. And we're going to take, that's our new G. And we're going to take our new G, which is 46, minus E, which is 4, equals 42. Now we're going to take that number, 42, which is H, divided by 2, which is a fixed number, equals 21. And then we're going to take that number, 21, divided by 2 equals P, which is 10.5. Now, because 10.5 is a decimal, we have to round down. So 10.5 equals 10. So this is step 5 now, the optional step. And then because we have 5a, we have to do 5b, which is I, which is 21, plus 1 equals 22. So now let's put it all together. So for row 1, we're going to knit P or L. Because we have L, we're going to use that. So knit 10, knit 2 together. Z was 2. 2. Knit I or M, because we have M, we're going to be using that, 22. Knit 2 together, Z, which is 2. And then knit P or L, because we have L, we're using that, which is 10. And that's our number. If you add that all up, that will give you 46. 10 plus 2 plus 22 plus 2 plus 10, 46. So for the remainder now, we're going to be using this new equation, which is this for the remaining steps. So that was row 1 we just did. So now for row 3, sorry, we're going to do the same thing. We could take our new G, which is 46, minus E, which is 4, equals 42, which is our new G. New G minus E, 42 minus 4 equals I, equals H, 38. H divided by 2, 38 divided by 2 is 19. 19 is I divided by 2 is P, so 19 divided by 2 is 9.5. 9.5 is a decimal, so we have to reduce it, so we have to apply step 5. 9.5 becomes 9, round down always. And then step 5b is take I, which is 19, plus 1, 1 is a fixed number always, equals 20. And that'll give us our new equation. So knit 9, knit 2 together, Z, which is 2, knit M, which is 20, knit 2 together, Z, which is 2, and knit L, which is 9. And if you add it all together, it's 42. So we keep doing this, now we just apply the next one. You take the new G, 42, minus E equals new G, which is 38, etc. So you keep doing that all the way to the end. Now, when I did mine all the way to the end, it got me a total of 26 stitches. Based on C that I wanted here, I wanted 21. 26 is close to 21. You could probably get a closer. If you want a closer, 26 is okay, it's fine. But if you want a closer, you can go on to this step here, which is to just do this beginning step before you start applying your variables to the equations. So what you want to do is take Q minus E. Okay? So before row 1, you do Q minus E. Q minus E, so in this case is 50 minus 4 equals 46. So you take that number, 46, and you apply it to your beginning equation. So 46. So 46 becomes our new G. So you just start applying it to the equation now. So for row 1, you take new G minus E. So 46 minus E, which is 4, equals 42, which is our new G. New G minus E equals 38. 42 minus 4 equals 38. 38 divided by 2 is 19. 19 divided by 2 is 9.5. 9.5. Round it down. For 5 is 9. And the next one is 20. 19 plus 1. So then that'll give you your new equation, which will add up to be 42. And if you keep going all the way down, row 1, row 3, row 5, row 7, row 9, and row 11, you'll end up getting 22. So 22 is a lot closer to the 21 that we wanted at the beginning for variable C. Variable C. So you can do it that way if you find that the first way that we did it doesn't get you close enough, do it the second way and it'll get you hopefully a lot closer to the number that you require. And then in the end, just do that. So I hope this made sense. I apologize for being so long. I wanted to make it thorough so that you do understand what to do. And so do your decreases, finish to the end of row 12, and I will meet you at the end of row 12.